Esther Lungu's warning to President Hichilema: will history judge him harshly? Power is temporary, but history is permanent. Long after speeches fade and elections end, historians will ask one question: what did this leader leave behind? Esther Lungu has now raised a provocative challenge: should President Hakainde Hichilema be worried about how history will judge his leadership? Tonight, we examine that question not emotionally, but historically. Good day, viewers. Welcome to another edition of the InspirAfrica Official. I'm Nakash. Well, what a week it's been across the African continent. From Cape Town to Cairo, the political winds continue to shift and shake the foundations of power. But today, we turn our attention to Zambia, where a voice from the past has emerged with a warning that cuts through the political noise like a knife through butter. Picture this. A former First Lady, a woman who once walked the corridors of State House with grace and dignity, now standing in the shadows of what she calls political persecution. Her husband, once the president of a nation, now faces charges that she insists are nothing more than a vendetta wrapped in the cloak of anti-corruption. And at the center of it all stands President Hakainde Hichilema, a man who promised change, who vowed to be different, who swore to unite rather than divide. But is he keeping those promises? Or has the intoxication of power transformed him into the very thing he once condemned? Esther Lungu, wife of former President Edgar Lungu, has broken her silence with words that carry the weight of warning and prophecy. She speaks not just as a wife defending her husband, but as a witness to what she calls a dangerous pattern, a pattern of selective justice, of weaponized institutions, of persecution disguised as prosecution. When does anti-corruption become political revenge? When does justice transform into judicial harassment? When does a leader's promise to heal a nation morph into a campaign to destroy his predecessors? And perhaps most haunting of all, when the dust settles and history opens its books, will President Hichilema be remembered as a reformer who brought accountability, or as a leader who used the machinery of state to crush his political opponents? These are not merely rhetorical questions, viewers. These are questions that will define Zambia's democratic trajectory for generations to come. And Esther Lungu is demanding answers. Factual foundation. The revelation came to light through a statement released by Esther Lungu in late December 2024, sending shockwaves through Zambian political circles and reigniting debates about the nature of President Hichilema's anti-corruption drive. The context is crucial here. Edgar Lungu served as Zambia's sixth president from January 2015 to August 2021. When he lost the 2021 elections to Hakainde Hichilema, many Zambians hoped for a peaceful transition and a new chapter of national unity. President Hichilema had campaigned on promises of inclusive governance and healing the divisions that had characterized Zambian politics. However, what followed was something quite different. Within months of taking office, investigations began into Edgar Lungu and his family. The former president has faced multiple charges ranging from corruption to abuse of authority during his tenure. His properties have been seized, his assets frozen, and his movements scrutinized. But it wasn't just Edgar Lungu. His wife, Esther, has also been dragged into the legal crosshairs. In June 2023, she was arrested by the Drug Enforcement Commission on allegations of possessing property suspected to be proceeds of crime. Specifically, she was accused of possessing 15 flats and 3 houses in Lusaka worth millions of kwacha that could not be adequately explained by legitimate sources of income. The charges against her include 3 counts of possession of property reasonably suspected of being proceeds of crime. She's been in and out of court, her dignity repeatedly called into question, her reputation systematically dismantled in the court of public opinion. Then came the tipping point. In December 2024, new charges emerged, new investigations were announced, and the legal noose appeared to tighten further around the Lungu family. It was at this moment that Esther Lungu decided she could no longer remain silent. Direct evidence. In her strongly worded statement, Esther Lungu pulled no punches. Her words carried the frustration of someone who believes they are witnessing a grave injustice. President Hichilema promised to be a unifier, she stated. He stood before the Zambian people and said he would be a president for all, regardless of political affiliation. He said he would respect the rule of law and ensure that justice is blind. But what we are seeing is the complete opposite. She continued, her voice rising with emotion, "My husband is being persecuted, not prosecuted." There is a difference, and every honest Zambian knows it. When you charge someone with a crime, you present evidence. You follow due process. You respect their rights. But when you persecute someone, you use the state machinery to harass them, to intimidate them, to break them down psychologically and financially. Esther Lungu then posed the central question of her statement. "I want to ask President Hichilema directly, where is this all leading? What is the endgame here? Is it to see my husband in prison? Is it to see our family destroyed? Is it to send a message to anyone who dares oppose you politically?" She went further, invoking the judgment of history. History has a way of, revealing the truth. You can manipulate the present, you can control the narrative today, but history judges leaders by their actions, not their words. And I sincerely believe that history will not be kind to President Hichilema if he continues down this path. Her statement included specific grievances. They froze our bank accounts without proper justification. They seized properties that were legally acquired. They parade us in court like criminals without presenting substantial evidence. And the media, especially state media, has been complicit in this character assassination. Speaking about the broader implications, she said, "This is not just about Edgar Lungu. This is about what kind of country Zambia will become. If today you can use state institutions to persecute a former president, tomorrow it will be someone else. The precedent being set here is dangerous. It means that, anyone who becomes president and then loses power will live in fear of retribution from the next government." Esther Lungu also addressed the international dimension. "The international community is watching. Our partners, our neighbors, they see what is happening. And they are asking the same questions we are asking. Is Zambia still a democracy? Is Zambia still a country where the rule of law matters? Or has it become a place where political power determines who gets justice and who gets persecution?" In one of her most pointed remarks, she stated, "I want President Hichilema to remember that power is temporary. Leadership is temporary. But legacy is forever. And the legacy he is building right now is one of vindictiveness, of political revenge, of using the institutions of state to settle political scores." Deeper analysis. Esther Lungu's warning opens up a Pandora's box of critical questions about governance, justice, and political culture in Zambia and across Africa. The first question is legitimacy. President Hichilema's government has maintained that all actions against Edgar Lungu and his family are part of a legitimate anti-corruption drive. They point to Zambia's history of grand corruption under previous administrations and argue that accountability must start at the top. The Attorney General's office has stated that the investigations are evidence-based and follow proper legal procedures. Opposition voices in civil society organizations, however, have raised concerns. Some legal analysts have questioned the timing and selectivity of the prosecutions. Why, they ask, are investigations focused almost exclusively on political opponents? Why have no significant corruption cases been brought against members of the current ruling party? Political analyst Dr. Sishiwa from the University of Zambia has noted that the pattern we're seeing is unfortunately familiar in African politics, new governments using anti-corruption as a weapon against predecessors rather than as a genuine tool for systemic reform. The Patriotic Front, Edgar Lungu's party, has been vocal in its criticism. Party spokesperson Emmanuel Mwamba stated, "What we are witnessing is the weaponization of state institutions. The Anti-Corruption Commission, the Drug Enforcement Commission, the police, all these bodies are being directed to target specific individuals for political reasons." But supporters of President Hichilema push back strongly. They argue that Edgar Lungu presided over massive corruption during his tenure, that public funds were looted, that nepotism was rampant, and that the country's debt ballooned to unsustainable levels. From this perspective, the prosecutions are not persecution but long overdue accountability. The legal dimension is equally complex. Zambian law does provide mechanisms for prosecuting corruption and recovering ill-gotten assets. However, legal experts have raised concerns about due process. Have the investigations followed proper procedures? Have the rights of the accused been respected? Are the charges based on solid evidence or political motivation? There's also the question of proportionality. Even if Edgar Lungu and his family engaged in corrupt practices, does the response match the offense? Or has the state's approach been excessive, designed more to humiliate and destroy than to seek justice? The international community has been watching carefully. Western donors and diplomatic missions have privately expressed concerns about the trajectory of Zambian politics. While they support anti-corruption efforts, they are wary of actions that appear to be politically motivated or that undermine democratic norms. Regional bodies like the Southern African Development Community have remained largely silent, but observers note that what happens in Zambia sets precedents for the entire region. If prosecuting former leaders becomes the norm, it could have a chilling effect on democratic transitions across Africa. Perhaps the most profound question is about political culture. Africa has a troubled history of leaders using state power against opponents. From Zimbabwe to Uganda, from Kenya to Tanzania, the pattern repeats. Those who control state institutions often wield them as weapons against political rivals. President Hichilema himself experienced this during the previous administration. He was arrested multiple times, charged with various offenses, and spent time in prison. Many of those cases were later dropped or ruled politically motivated. Given this history, Esther Lungu's warning carries particular weight. Is President Hichilema becoming what he once fought against?